Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, December 21st, 2023 special meeting. I call the meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda? Yes, Sue.
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's been brought to my attention that we have an elevator, and it needs to be replaced, and in the Mott Memorial Building. And I'd like to make a motion to have it replaced, to replace that elevator in the Mott Memorial Building.
You'd like to have this added to the agenda?
I'd like to have it added to the agenda, yeah.
Okay. If there's no objection, we'll add this to the agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Freeman.
So something like this is it's a maintenance-related issue that we don't do the day-to-day. We don't tell staff what to do. We ask, if it's not being done, we ask the president to take care of it. But this actually could be a violation of our board policy because we're actually interfering in the day-to-day operations of the college.
When we get to discussion regarding this, be happy to hear that. So, without objection, we will add this to the agenda.
That's an objection.
Without objection. So moved. Where should we add this to the agenda? Jason, could you assist me on this? And
we can report on the elevator during the president's report.
so shall we put this as number 7?
We can.
Okay.
Wait, there's been an objection. Do we have to vote on it? I made an objection.
As there was...
I made an objection.
Oh, I didn't hear your objection.
Yeah,
I just heard you speaking about your concern.
yeah,
so you have an objection.
Yeah, because...
Therefore, we will vote on it, Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry?
We will vote on it right now, whether or not we're going to add it to the agenda. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I did not hear your objection other than your concern for why this was being brought up. So, those in favor of adding it to the agenda, it's not a vote on whether or not we're going to do something with the elevator. It's whether or not we're going to add it to the agenda. We'll take a roll call vote. Jordan?
Check. All right, so Trustee Couch requested the addition to the agenda of the Mott Memorial Building elevator as part of the president's report. Would that be correct?
Did you want to do more than just hear a report, or did you want to fix it,
I'd like to
replace it?
vote on that,
To replace it?
to replace it.
Okay, all right. He needs to type this in, so it'll take just a moment.
Should you get more specific on which elevator in Mott Memorial, just in case there's any additional elevators that don't need fixing?
It would be the southeast elevator, hasn't been in operation.
All right, so Trustee Couch requested the addition on voting to replace the southeast elevator of the Mott Memorial Building, and Trustee Freeman objected to it.
Yeah, I do have a question for our legal counsel. Based on our policies specific to board role, is it not interference with the day-to-day operation and decision-making processes within the college?
Trustee Freeman, your board policies is set forth in Section 5000 deal with human resources, specifically provision 5008 deals with board employee communications, and that talks primarily about dealing where, let's say, Trustee Couch wanted to go directly to somebody below the president and talk to somebody within the college, whether she would be able to do that or not. It doesn't necessarily, it deals primarily with the issue of communications and not necessarily with issues of specific needs of the college. And again,
I would say that we are directing people within the college, we're ordering them to do something. This is a human resources function that it would be the president contacting the facilities department to do the repair. We actually are now asking the facilities department to do it, bypassing the college president. So I do feel that this is an overreach of, I've never, in all the years that I've been here, we have never made specific motions such as this, and I think it can be perceived as an overreach of policy. So,
I can read to you specifically your policy. It says, all communications from employees to the board or its committees shall be submitted through the president. So,
but isn't there more? It's not just communications, but we can't order individuals to do things differently. It could violate collective bargaining. It could, I mean, there are processes, and I don't know why we just don't notify the college and say, hey, it's been brought to our attention that this needs to be repaired. Can it please be repaired? I don't know why this requires a board vote.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Well, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Before we trying to replace something that could cost, which I agree it needs to be fixed. I mean, are we in compliance with the Michigan Disability Act? I'm not sure. But I think maybe we should reach out to them. Could be an easy fix, we don't know. And let's see if we can get it fixed first.
Thank you. For full disclosure, I was called about this afternoon by a trustee. I immediately called Jason Wilson because we needed to have the facilities individual explain to us what's going on. Now, if it's just a fix, we will find that out. If it needs to be replaced, we will find out, because they've had since, I believe, April to work on the elevator. So at this point, the only thing we're doing and deciding at this moment is whether we will add it to the agenda.
So maybe change the motion then instead of replacing the entire thing.
I think she has a motion that once we get into this, we can decide whether we vote that motion down. We have to have a report from, I think there's at least two people that will need to talk to this issue when it's brought up. So let's go to that point and see where we're at. Mr. Reyes.
Yeah, firstly, it's if it gets to that point, not when it gets to that point, because we still have to vote on the motion to add that to the agenda. But I think that if it were to be added to the agenda, it should be under administrative items, because the administration is reporting to us what needs to be done, what has been done, what will be done, versus us taking, and to me, circumventing the procurement process as well. You know, it's, if they know it needs to be fixed, then they're going to report on it needing to be fixed. We have a section where there's administrative, it's actually called the President's Report. So it's a report to us from the administration. So if this were to make it onto the agenda, I believe that would be the proper place. But I agree that this is not something that the board needs to take up. And when you were called by the trustee, they told you that it had been since April that the elevator has been in disrepair?
Yes, checked into it and found out that this has been inoperable since April. And just to clarify, you said you wanted this under administrative items, or you wanted this under new business?
No, I believe that if this were to make it to the agenda, it would be under administrative items.
Okay, I believe when Jason and I talked about that, we were thinking it would be under item number 7, under administrative items. Is there any more discussion at this time? Seeing none, we'll now have a roll call vote. Jordan?
Mr. Chair, just for your awareness, right now, the addition that trustee Couch made was to vote on the replacement of the elevator. So right now, that's currently what trustee Freeman objected to.
Okay, I understand that, but she wants this on the agenda. I'm willing to allow it to be on the agenda if the board decides, and then during the discussion of it, we'll either decide whether or not, with the information given to us, we need to go that far, or repair it. Is that correct, Mrs. Couch?
Yes.
Okay.
So trustee Couch, you'd like to amend the addition?
No, she said that that it was going to go whether or not we were going to replace it. And then if not, if we vote
Okay.
that down, then the administration will go in a different direction.
Okay, right now, trustee Couch requests the addition of voting to replace the southeast elevator of the Mott Memorial Building. Trustee Freeman objected.
Okay.
And then the chair call for roll call vote. Trustee Couch.
Yes.
Trustee Freeman.
No.
Trustee Reyes.
No.
Trustee Wolcott.
No, I can't vote to replace it right now when it might be an
It's
easy
not a vote
fix.
to replace it right now. When it gets to the agenda, we decide whether or not we're going to do that, but we have to get the reports. It's just adding it to the agenda.
We can add it and discuss it.
Right.
I think it's a violation of policy, but
I think what we need to do is contact them over there to
They
see.
will be here. The gentleman is in the audience to speak to us when this comes up in the agenda. I have called Jason, asked if we can have a report given. The report will be given on where we're at with this and whether it needs to go in that direction.
So if the gentleman is here, I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I just believe that it should, if.
I didn't know he was
here.
here.
Yeah. Regardless,
So, madam, your vote is?
I'll add it to the agenda, and then
So your
I'd like
vote
to, I want to
is-
hear what he has to say.
So somebody doesn't
Yes.
complain? Jordan?
Right now, for clarification, it's the vote to, on the replacement of the southeast elevator in the Mott Memorial Building. That's what's on the table right now. So that's what you'd be voting on, not
And
to
Andy,
add
that
it
is
to
what
the
I just
agenda
said to you, and you
president's
told me
report.
no,
To
that's not it.
place it on the agenda, and then in item 7, under administrative items, that is where we'll have the further discussion to replace it or not. And then at that point, we'll get to, during that discussion, we'll have a report from the gentleman and maybe Larry Gothrop on what's going on with this, and then we can vote that up or down.
Okay, I'll vote yes. I want to hear what the guy has to say.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to say.
Is your microphone on?
So the motion is to vote if we're going to replace it?
No. The motion right
No,
now is to
that's-
place
that's-
it on the
That is the
agenda.
motion.
That is the motion.
That's what I said to
If
you.
That's the
that-
motion.
We're not doing the motion yet. We're voting to place that motion on the agenda. And
Mr.
then
Chair,
we will have discussion.
That is what the motion is. I rescind my vote, and I'm voting no. That is what the motion is. I've heard it 3 times now, and I'm getting confused by what you're saying. The motion is to replace the entire elevator.
When it gets to the agenda.
No,
in
that's not
item
what the
7.
motion states.
I
That's not what the motion
I
states, so
don't know
no.
how
My
you're
answer
gonna
is
do
no.
that. If Sue wants to amend her motion to where we discuss the state of repair that it's in, that's one thing, but to vote to replace it, Michael's right.
Okay.
We can't do that.
Do you want to change the motion?
The vote's already been
Started,
started, yes, correct. So
Okay.
you'd have to finish it.
so we'll finish this.
No.
Okay. No. So would you like to change your motion?
Oh, Mr. Chair, were you a no?
Yes, I said no. So would you like to
On
change
the-
that to add it to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, state the
Wait.
vote.
He has to state what the effect of the motion.
Okay.
So on their request, in addition to vote to replace southeast elevator of the Mott Memorial building, there's 1 aye and 5 nays. It does not pass to being added on the agenda.
Sue, would you like to restate that where we do have a report from the administration on the condition of the elevator?
Well, I'd like to hear the report on that.
Condition of the elevator.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Roll call vote on that. Mr. Jordan? Yes.
That was not a motion. Saying I would like to hear what they have to say was not in the
Okay.
form of a motion or was
How
it-
would we like to do this so we can find out about this elevator?
It would have been as simple as just asking Jason to include it on the administrative items, which if he were notified prior to the meeting, and they brought the facilities person in, they were fully prepared to give us a report.
So that's the way we should handle this, correct, Mr. Freeman and Mr. Reyes?
I think it's fair to ask staff to, before we come to the table, if this has been a problem for a while, if we wanted a report out, we could have asked for the status of the repairs on that and got an explanation on it. But I think at the meeting, it's not really fair to ask people to report on something that may not have been researched yet, or have the people here who could talk to the issue. So,
Okay, as I understand, we have the people to talk to this issue today, Jason?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So, without objection, item number 7, to place it on the agenda to hear a report on this,
what is being added to the agenda?
to hear a report on the elevator, the southeast elevator in the Mott Memorial Building.
That's fine.
No objection?
No objection.
Okay. Any other additions to the agenda?
I would request that individual items, given that they're just treasurer's reports and, let me see, approval of minutes, that we put those into a consent agenda.
The treasurer's report and the approval of the minutes, both in consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Support.
Without objection. Any objection to doing that?
No.
So moved. Okay. All in favor of the agenda as it's now amended? Yes, Mr. Freeman?
So additions, we're doing adoption of the agenda. So don't we have to do a motion to adopt the agenda, discussion, and then vote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there an adoption, any more adoptions to the agenda?
No additions, and then we have to vote to adopt the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
So
Additions to the agenda, now the adoption to the agenda.
you have to say, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Very good.
And have a
Is there-
second?
Is there a second? Are you
I
making the
didn't
motion?
make the motion.
Do we have a second?
No, I didn't make the motion. I was actually saying how you actually,
Thank you for your assistance.
well, gladly.
I'm not making fun of you. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt the agenda
As amended.
as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Frame.
So it really comes to the nature of this agenda. So typically, a clarification that special meetings can be called, either by the board chair or 3 members of the board. In the past, it's typically been an emergency or a critical issue that we needed to move forward that would deviate from our normal schedule. This month, we've had quite a few meetings. That has taken away time from us. It's absorbed a lot of time from the staff as well, and we're right before the holidays, and I'm sure everyone has a lot to do. I'm concerned that on this agenda, I see nothing that is an emergency or requires immediate action, and that easily could have been dealt with in our next meeting. And so this goes to, I'm not really happy to be here tonight because I have a lot to do, and I'm sure everybody here has a lot to do. But I think continuing to have all these special meetings, the public optics of this are not good. People in the community keep asking why, normally you get more notice, but with a special meeting, it's 72 hours? And it's feeling that it's kind of this duck and weave around, why are we holding these special meetings? What's going to happen? Why, anyone from the public would look at this and say, any of these items could have been dealt with in a regular meeting. So it only makes the board look suspect that we keep having all of these special meetings. We had the one scheduled for Monday, it then was moved to Thursday. And so it's causing confusion in the public as well. So I would say that I would advise our board chair and others that when we have special meetings, that they really should be, it's an emergency. We have a grant that needs to have authorization by the board. We have things that are time sensitive. These items are not time sensitive, and the reason that I asked to have all of the individual items combined into a consent agenda so that we could move this faster. We're here. I would like to have an expeditious meeting if possible because I would like to get home, and I'm sure everybody here would like to get home as well. But I would go back to let's not abuse the privilege of the special meeting when we actually do have schedules of regular meetings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. Are there any other comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it, no nays. The agenda is amended as approved and adopted. Comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public, Mr. Keith?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. In accordance with Section 1640 of the meeting procedures, board policy states that the board chairperson shall invite the public to address the board. All citizens who wish to address the board or who wish to communicate with the board in writing shall identify themselves and/or the group they represent, if any. They must also state their reason for addressing the board. Citizens addressing the board shall be limited to 5 minutes in making their remarks unless the time is increased or decreased by consent of the board. A brief supporting the remarks made by the citizen may be submitted to the board for its consideration.
First up, we have Bobby Walton of Davison, and she'd like to speak to finances, fiduciary responsibility, and personnel.
I think I got it. Good evening, and thank you for taking my comments. Last week, when I came to speak with you, I was told that I was not going to be allowed to speak, and I remember saying, There was a court case that said that, yes, I can speak. I can speak to any item that is of the public interest, because that's the main reason the First Amendment exists. So I found the court case, which is generally cited by most of the school boards in the state of Michigan whenever they talk about First Amendment rights. And I brought a copy of the court case with me for each of you, and I would like to pass them out with your permission.
Jordan, could you help her with that?
I find it's good to be on the same page. Well, tonight I came to talk to you because I did look at the agenda, and it appears that we're going to be looking at the books. We're going to be looking at the accounts of how Mott College is spending the county's money, the people's money. There are norms, standards, rules, and laws to protect the people's interests, and I think I've commented to you many times about the norms, standards, rules, and laws, because that's why we trust you. And I was observing what you were talking about earlier, and the dialogue between Trustee Freeman and the rest of you, particularly Trustee Couch and the chair, had to do with norms, standards, rules, and laws. And it's only through the norms, standards, rules, and laws that we trust you. So I will be representing the public interest every time I come to you, because often people forget what the norms, standards, rules, and laws mean. You trustees are charged to oversee the process. There are even accounting standards you are expected to follow. The auditors you contract with audit your accounts and look at all of this. And one of the basic questions the auditor will answer is, how well are you managing your resources? One set of those rules protects the people from favoritism or fraud. A publicly transparent system is followed when you buy goods or services for this people's college. And just now you were talking about the possibility of buying something for the college, which was an elevator. There is value of transparency in how you function when you're spending our money or managing the job you were elected to do. Over the past 8 months, you trustees have undergone a legally defined process to purchase the services of a lawyer to give you legal advice as a board. When you went searching for legal services, you were particular about what you wanted in a lawyer. You defined a scope of work for the legal services. You developed a matrix of scoring for evaluating proposals. You were spending the people's money and you needed the services, but you wanted to justify your decision and make sure you were improving the way you do your job. If a person observed the discussions and back and forth between all of you at your meetings, your special meetings, a person would understand you were refining the ideas of how to proceed in your search. And keep in mind that you wanted to spend the people's money wisely. You are representing an educational institution, an institution with special needs in so many different ways, one that employs highly specialized people. Your faculty have special skills and knowledge, and your staff. I remember when you were wrestling with the possibility of transitioning from one software program to another to run all the operations of your college. You consulted with the head of your IT department, an expert in information technology. You did not confer with the English department or the poli-sci professors. You went to the expert in her area. So when you went to the legal experts to find the lawyer for your board, I foolishly assumed you were looking for an expert in higher education law. I assumed you were looking for a specialist. I know a little bit about the issues a lawyer to a board of trustees of a college might be called on to resolve. I watched the interviews of lawyers, the finalists in your consideration. I heard their answers, I watched their demeanor. Prior to the interviews, I had done my own research just to see which law firms seemed to have the most rounded background and experience in higher education. There was one firm that seemed completely lacking. I was surprised to see them in the mix. And when they were interviewed, the presentation was all over the place and not at all focused on higher education. So imagine my surprise when this was the firm the 4 officers of this board chose to hire. Alternative dispute resolution lawyer serving Grand Blanc is William H. Brickley. When I learned that this lawyer was the attorney you brought to advise you at the February 2nd special meeting, Mr. Chair, I thought...
Thank you, madam. Your time is now up. We have used your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Have a good holiday.
I will conclude this
Do
by
we have
saying
any
I-
other comments this evening, Ms.
I have
Jordan?
prepared,
Thank you very much, madam.
I have prepared
have any
something
other
to send
comments
to
this
the
evening?
Attorney General for an examination of exactly how this
Madam,
occurred.
your time is now expired. Thank you.
I'm sure you wanted to hear that.
We do have another comment that's been submitted by Mr. Jobin of Burton, Michigan. Mrs. Jobin? Yes. Okay. Okay. Push the green button.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Hi, my name's Sandy Jobin. I've been to several of these meetings, and it just seems like it's complaint after complaint after complaint, and I'm just wondering exactly what we're getting done here. Now we have an attorney, and that's not good enough. In everybody's eyes, I mean, you sat up here last meeting and allowed racist comment, and I'm sorry, Mr. Freeman, but that was also you as far as being named a privileged, or no, let me requote that because I don't want to get sued for saying the wrong thing. Something to the fact of white male. Do you remember that comment that the lady made, the black lady made here and said that you guys were prominently white males? She was terrified of the comments, her being a black woman. And she says that black people can't make racist comments. This doesn't cross your mind? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't think it's right that racist comments are made in a college, and I think we're going down the wrong road as far as the education. I think we need to take a new look at the education of which way we're going. And as far as the board, I think they're doing a fine job. I think people are upset because it's now more of a conservative or a different thought or feeling of the board. And just let them do their job. Just let them do their job and see where we at as far as that goes. And as far as the attorney goes, you have an attorney on there that is under an investigation that was that people think was a great idea to have. So I don't think that was such a great idea either. So just let them do their job, see what happens, instead of coming up here and complaining every single time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan, are there any other comments this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There's one more comment that's been submitted by Connie Green of Davis in Michigan. Connie states, why are my public comments being censored by the board chair, Andy Everman? I submitted a public comment in compliance with the board's form online, and while watching the meeting on YouTube, I was shocked to see my comments omitted. Just some questions I have for the board and community to think about. Everyone is so worried about the removal of the president. What if she removes herself? I read in a recent newspaper that Beverly Walker Garcia has been applying for other jobs out of state. Does this mean she is leaving Mott? Since the new board has taken over, there seems to be a lot of people working to make this partisan. As a taxpayer...
Excuse me, Jordan. Pause just a moment. Madam, that seat is not yours yet. Please wait till he has completed, and then you can come forward. But not yet, please. Jordan.
I'll get it after I read this comment. Thank you. As a taxpayer who pays the wages of these folks, I would also like to know who runs the Mott Community College Facebook page. Maybe my multiple requests for evaluations was a waste of time after all. Maybe Dr. Beverly will soon be leaving for a college she applied for. As to the lady that spoke at the last meeting that was clearly staged, please do not threaten the board. Also, the comments about black and whites and racism was disgusting, and I hope you are seeking therapy. And finally, my last question of the night, can anyone tell me what the previous board attorney, Amberly Brennan's job was before being hired as legal counsel. Once you find the answer to that question, Bobby Walton, your argument withers.
Jordan, do we have any other individuals that would like to address the board this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the one that just submitted comment.
Okay. Please come forward.
My name is Elizabeth Taylor, and I just wanted to show you what you have out here to greet the public. It says, please complete the form. Okay. Thank you. It says, please complete the form and submit it to the Board Relations Coordinator, Assistant Secretary to the Board prior to the call to order. I don't know who that is. So I'm sure we would need a little more direction so that we follow your rules. I'm so sorry that Dr. Beverly isn't here this evening because I think she does an outstanding job. And I really want to be able to tell her that more often. So one of the other things I wanted to say is I really appreciated what you said. I really appreciated your action steps that you were going to talk about. And I love the series of words, norms, policy, rules, and standards. If you're going to have those things, it's important for the public to know who these people are that you need to respond to. The other thing I wanted to say again, I love the concept of norms, policy, rules, and standards that are made easy for the public to understand, know, and follow. I think it's really important to understand what the Open Meetings Act is. Is it a law? Is it a norm, a policy, a rule, or a standard? How you greet the public and interrupt and submit, you're finished, your 2 minutes are up, or whatever your norms, policy, rules, and standards are. It's more important to hear from the public than your norms, policy, rules, and standards, and the law, as far as I'm concerned. I would also like to ask the attorney, has anyone in your law firm or their family been a member to eliminate or remove any administrative person in an educational institution? I think that person may have been chosen for those kinds of concerns. The other thing I think is, like, you spent this board spent tonight 15 to 20 minutes talking about an elevator that doesn't belong in a boardroom. What the public wants, needs, and understands and helps us do is the importance of what a board is. And if that's not what you're doing, I think you ought to think about that one more time, what your role is for norms, policy, rules, and standards. And thank you for saying that. For those of you that greeted me when I walked in this evening, thank you very much for your warmth. And for those that didn't greet me when I walked in this evening, maybe those are your norms and policies and rules and standards that I don't understand.
Thank you. Jordan, do we have any other?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Jordan, do we have any communications to the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one letter that has been submitted to the board from the city of Grand Blanc. It reads as follows. For Grand Blanc Downtown Development Authority, November 1st, 2023, informational meeting number 2 for the following tax millages, Mott operating. Dear Mott Community College President and Board of Trustees, pursuant to the Recodified Tax Increment Financing Act, Act 57 of 2018, the City of Grand Blanc Downtown Development Authority is providing public notice to your board of the second information meeting on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, meeting at 6:30 p.m. The purpose of the meeting will be to inform the public of the goals and directions of the authority, including projects to be undertaken in the coming year. Please contact me if you have any questions. Sincerely, Wendy Jean Buer, City Manager, City of Grand Blanc.
Jason, do we need to send somebody to that meeting? Do we need to respond? What do
Yeah.
we do for the
Yes,
office?
yes, Mr. Chair, I believe CFAO Gothrop will attend that meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. New business. Consent agenda. Items 1.68, 1.69, 1.70, 1.71. For Treasurer's Report, 1.71 cannot be in the consent agenda. That's the appointment of the Goals Committee. So items 1.68, 1.69, and 1.70. Is there a motion to accept those reports?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
Mr.
did,
Freeman.
actually ask for all individual items to be moved into the consent agenda. So that's all the way down to approval of minutes.
Just a minute, I have to get a new earpiece.
I had thought you said just reports.
No, I said all items, and my motion was that all items and individual items be moved to the consent agenda to expedite this meeting and conversation.
Well, we need to appoint a Goals Committee this evening.
I mean, that was the motion that was voted on, so you should have removed it or asked to have that excluded if you wanted that individually done. But we did have them,
Bill,
Board Attorney,
how do I do
I did
this?
make a motion that we put all items and individual items into consent agenda.
I'm sorry, you said something if we had a good attorney?
My motion was to move all items, all individual items into a consent agenda. And that was what was voted on by the board.
Okay, how do we deal with this?
Well, I think first get confirmation from Jordan as to whether that, in fact, that was the motion, and then if he says that that was in fact the motion, then you would make another motion to amend the agenda to discuss that matter separately.
Okay. So it will require a motion now, as the attorney has said, to discuss item 1.71, appointment of the Goals Committee, separate. So before we do that, we'll vote on the consent of,
That was already done. We voted on the consent agenda. That was done
this is
during
correct.
additions to the agenda, where I actually made the motion for additions to the agenda for all individual items to be placed into the consent agenda. And my examples of minutes, treasurer's report, whatnot, were just kind of explanation of the content of the things that were in this. If you wanted it removed, everyone should have said, well, we will put all items in consent agenda except for item 1.71, which was not done procedurally. So I believe that my motion and the support and approval of that motion stands.
okay. Bill, can the board,
All right, so, just so you know, so what he is stating is legally, as it states, if you vote to approve this as new business and individual items, you have voted for the appointment of a goals committee, without discussion, without any further action taken. So,
at that point, where the Goals Committee is set up, as it states in our policy manual, I just make the appointments without input from the
you
board.
would follow the procedures as set forth in your bylaws with respect to the appointment of committee members.
So, okay, if everybody's comfortable with that, I had hoped to take nominations from individuals or people that wanted to say, I would like to serve on that. But given the box that Mr. Freeman has put me in, I will simply ask you and put you on those committees, if you accept them, if that's what it says. So, is that correct?
Mr. Chair?
So the way, and again, Jordan, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was he made the motion to amend the agenda to make these items in the new business and approval of minutes as under the consent agenda.
I have it as adding to adding the consent agenda for the treasurer's reports and unofficial minutes.
No,
Okay.
my motion was actually the individual items.
Did he mention each one by number?
I did not hear individual numbers.
I've said all items. I mean, it's black and white, but
Michael, what I heard was for the treasurer's report and the minutes.
I said, I know what I said.
No, and I
I
understand,
said
and I'm just
all-
telling you what I understood.
Yeah,
And I might not have heard you right.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when we're going through agenda items, you can ask questions, or, if someone had said, I agree, but let's take 1.71 out, and actually, it just says appointment of goals committee was the conversations that we were going to do it, or that we were going to have, there's no clarification anywhere within this that says that we were actually going to take nominations and go through a formal process. So my understanding is that, just what's in front of my face, and I asked to have all those items put in, and so, which included treasurer, definitely treasurer and special meeting minutes in particular, but I would say that we need to be by the book when we do this, and quite honestly, if this was such a critical issue, that it should have been extracted from the consent agenda. So procedurally, we might have an issue,
Bill?
because we've just now voted on the agenda as it was stated with additions, which we're supposed to follow, and you don't change as you go along.
So again, your procedures say, and again, I'm going to rely on Jordan's memory, and he's taking the notes with respect to what the motion was, so, but your guidelines indicate that the agenda may be modified by the chairperson if there is no objection from a board member or upon concurrence of the majority of the trustees. So if you believe this is in this part of the consent judgment and you want it out, you could do there's a possibility of doing another motion to bring it out to have a separate discussion. If you believe it is not in there, you can have a separate discussion. If you believe that it's in there and simply agreeing with the consent judgment and having what this says, a goals committee, the appointment of a goals committee, then it would be subject.
So at this point, I could entertain a motion from the board to remove 1.71 from the consent agenda.
Yes, there's nothing in your guidelines indicating how many times you can amend the agenda or when it has to occur within the meeting itself.
Thank you.
So basically,
Is there a motion
do we have to
by
recant?
anyone?
No,
Mr. Freeman, I've not called on you. I'm
I
speaking.
do have a
Is there
procedural
a
question,
motion
which
on the
is
floor
germane.
for
It
anyone
is
to
germane
remove
to the
item
conversation, and you might not want to
1.71
hear
from the
it,
appointment
is
of-
why you're
of
not
goals
recognizing me. But you should recognizing me, because I do have a comment that's germane to this. Because essentially, we made an action as a board at the beginning of this meeting to do this, which now you have to undo, go back and undo the original, which, I'm sorry, just pay attention in the future. And
Jordan,
Having
can you
served
read
on
that
a
motion
board
again?
with Lenore Crowdy, there were times when we had to do that, and there was not such a stink made of it. Mr. Reyes, you had your hand up.
There's a motion on the floor, we're in discussion, so you're asking for a motion.
The motion to remove item
Right,
1.71
but
from the
there's a
consent
motion
agenda.
There's a motion on the floor right now. We're in discussion on a motion that was made and properly seconded.
Okay. So, yes, Wendy?
Can Jordan repeat the motion again that Michael made?
I have it as trustee Freeman requested a consent, or to add to the agenda, a consent agenda for the treasurer's report and unofficial minutes. My apologies if,
So, do they need to vote it down and then take them individually?
My role to tell them to vote it up or down, so it depends on the individual will of each board member. So
So if they vote the consent down, then they can go back and do each one of these individually.
Well, they've been made, the accepting of the treasurer's reports. So again, I suppose maybe we should start with having Jordan tell us what is in this motion. And then you can decide whether you want to vote yes or no on it. But what specific items that he has noted are in this motion, because he is the official record keeper of this proceeding.
Right
So,
now,
Jordan-
I don't have anyone that's put a motion, a clear motion. There's been
Okay,
nobody
So
who's
it's
done
not
it.
clear.
There's
Alright.
been no motion as of
There you
right
go.
now.
So if we vote it down now,
Well, there's nothing to vote on. He says there's no clear motion that's been made at this point in time.
Yeah, there is a clear motion has actually been made to accept the consent agenda.
Okay,
We were having discussion about that.
all right.
okay. So if we vote the consent agenda down for these items, then we could go back and take them individually?
So it depends on so from what I understand and hearing Jordan say is that he understood the consent agenda to include the three treasurer reports and the approvals of the regular meetings. Did I understand that accurately?
The approval of all three, the regular meetings,
Yes.
especially, and the two special meetings.
So by voting in favor of the consent agenda, you would be voting to accept the treasury reports from September, October, and November of 2023. You'd also be voting for the approval of the regular minutes of September 18th, December 4, and December 12.
And the appointment of goals committee is not in the consent agenda, is that correct?
According to his
As we
notes, they did
understand.
not include, that is not included in the consent agenda.
I do not have that in my notes, and I would like to know who put the motion out there to accept the consent agenda, because I did not hear that.
Michael, was that not you,
What?
to put these items in the consent
I
agenda?
asked to have
Okay.
all individual items put into the consent agenda.
Currently, you're asking that, or from?
Wendy made the motion to accept the consent agenda,
Okay.
and Jeff and I seconded it.
Okay. All right, I have trustee Wolcott motion to adopt the consent agenda, and trustee Swanson has seconded it. With the consent agenda entailing the treasurer's report for September of '23, October of '23, November of '23, and the approval of the regular meeting minutes of September 18th, 2023, special meeting minutes of December 4th, 2023, and the approval of special meeting minutes of December 12th, 2023.
Correct.
So nowhere in there do we have the appointment of the goals committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, are there any discussion about the acceptance of the treasurer's reports and the minutes from the consent agenda?
We don't
A
need
roll call
we
vote.
don't need a discussion on the consent agenda.
Okay, well, we're going to do a vote now. And just to be sure, Jordan, let us do a roll call vote.
All right, on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, Wendy Wolcott has motion and trustee Swanson has seconded it. Trustee Couch.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Freeman's aye. Trustee Reyes.
Yes.
Trustee Wolcott.
Aye.
Trustee Freeman. Or I'm sorry, Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Chair
Would you turn
Everman.
your microphone on and repeat it so it is recorded?
Yes.
Chair Everman.
Yes.
All members present vote aye. The motion is passed.
Item 1.71, appointment of the Goals and Objectives Committee. I have spoken to Mr. Daly, who would like to serve on that committee. Is there anyone else that would like to serve on that committee? Wendy? Wendy,
Hold on, how many people are on it?
there are 3 people on it. Dr. Daly has said he would like to serve.
Okay, I'll do it,
You will.
yeah.
I'll do it.
Jeff?
I'll do it as well.
We have, Mr. Freeman would also like to do it. Very good. Do we need to take a vote on that? Okay. So I would entertain a motion to accept the members of the Goals and Objective Committee as Dr. Daly, Wendy Walcott, and Michael Freeman. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion has passed. Miscellaneous business. The introduction of the board attorney. The board attorney is Bill Brickley. He's brought with him his partner, John, and I've asked that they give us a presentation on how they will be working with us. Mr. Brickley.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and welcome to you all. It's a pleasure to be here. I know in the interview I mentioned that I had been practicing law in Genesee County for 39 years, and I have gotten to know over those 39 years the contributions that Mott Community College has made to this community, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to be able to be part of this group and hopefully make positive improvements in the lives of the people here in Genesee County and beyond. You know, my role is defined, first of all, and again, I'll point out Mr. John Galuli, he's sitting in the public section there. John is one of my partners. He, along with another woman named Ebony Duff, are going to be primarily responsible with me for handling your account and giving you legal advice. I thought it was important and I'll bring Ebony to a meeting as well so that you get to know them as well, because you know, it doesn't really matter how many legal matters I have. There's always a conflict that occurs every now and then, and so I may not be able to be here at every meeting, and I may not be able to answer all the questions, and so when I can't, John and Ebony are going to help me significantly. But the role of your attorney is defined in your bylaws, and it specifically indicates in section 1720 what exactly my roles and duty are going to be. And I'm not going to restate all that just yet, but just so you're aware, and so there's no accusations that I'm favoring anybody, that we're favoring anybody, the bylaws indicate that the chairperson or the president of the college is authorized to contact the attorney on legal matters concerning the college. And so while I am here and I hope to be available to you all, my direct lines of communication have to go through the chairperson and the college president, and that's what we will do. Hopefully, if you have legal issues that you need our advice on, you will go through the college president and the chairperson, and they will direct it to me, and I will be glad to direct it back to them. I'm not here to try to create any unnecessary hoops or procedural guidelines and the like, but this is the rules that we're abiding by right now. I will say that I did have a chance to meet many of the college administrators the other day, and in addition to thanking them for their very warm welcome to me for being part of your college now, they seemed like a very competent group of folks who seemed very encouraged and energetic about serving the needs of the students here. Some of the matters that have been raised with me that are likely on the horizon that I will hopefully address for you in the future will include One, reviewing your board policies and procedures. We've referred to them numerous times throughout this evening, and we'll continue to refer to them. But if you look at them, most of these were reviewed and adopted back in 2008. And one of the things we recommend to all of our clients who have board policies and procedures is to do reviews of these on a more updated basis, just from the advance of technology through the changes in the size and scope of the administration or what you do. It is always important to go through these policies and boards and procedures. You actually have, as one of your standing committees, a board policy and procedure committee. So I would be glad to work with that committee and sit down with them and to discuss what your goals may be. It is not our job to tell you what your board policies and procedures should be, but only to assist you in trying to make sure that they are as efficient and as proactive as possible so that you can get the work of the college done in the best and most legally cognizant manner. Another matter that was brought to my attention with respect to a possible legal issue is that the board policies and procedures require on an annual basis an evaluation of the college president. That's set forth in section 2150, the evaluation. And I'll just simply read that. The Board of Trustees will evaluate the president on an annual basis. Criteria for the evaluation will be established by the board with the assistance of the president. And so obviously at this time the president is not available, so this process simply cannot take place until such time as the college president is available. And when that happens, between Chairperson Everman and myself and the college president will work on a process for evaluating the president. And my recommendation to your chairperson was to try to set this up on an annual basis, hopefully at the same type of meeting like you're supposed to do with your annual audits, where it just comes up, at the X meeting, this is the date we evaluate the president, and you have a process before then that would kick in and do that, because this is one of your policies and procedures. Again, if you don't like this policy and procedure, or if there's other policies and procedures, make notes. And when we go through the process of possibly updating these things, we can take on to that task as well. There's probably going to be legal issues that you all individually have, and again, I would encourage you to go through Chairperson Everman or the college president to get those to us, and we'd be glad to assist you in any way whatsoever. Obviously, I'm not here to help any of you with any of your own personal legal issues, and I cannot do that according to your rules and procedures, and I will not do that according to my own internal rules and procedures. But again, I encourage you to throw your questions through the chairperson and the college president, and we'd be glad to try to assist you in any way you think we can. Anything else?
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for him at this time?
Okay.
Mr. Freeman.
So just a couple points. Actually, there have been policy changes and revisions since 2008. It has not been, like in 2008, they went through everything, but we have been making updates along the way. So we have actively been updating policies and procedures. And then also, I think it's a bit of a misrepresentation that the board chair or board president has not been evaluated. There have been different reiterations of the evaluation process. We were actually given guidance from our human resources director, the one previous to Philip Espinoza, where we came up with, kind of like the current trend in evaluation. It's not like, we're all used to traditional evaluations where it's the pass fail. So if I would say that I would clarify with the board president about her evaluations and how she's been provided with feedback. We do have a strategic plan for the college that has been adopted by the board. That strategic plan is actually the benchmark by which we evaluate the president, whether or not we're actually hitting the mark specific to all of the items listed within the strategic plan. So I would say that we definitely need to have that conversation with the president as well, because she has had evaluations in the past, so.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions for the attorney at this time? Seeing none, we will move along now to the administrative items, and Vice President Jason Wilson will give the president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. members of the board and the public. Happy holidays from the college. We first would like to discuss celebrating employee student success. We have three items that we'd like to bring to your attention this evening. The first is a remarkable student athlete that we have at the college named Parker Austin. Parker was selected as a first team member of the NJCAA men's cross country All-America team. Parker has set school records in men's cross country, and Parker's story is very unique. And so today is just a teaser because we want to really have a full meeting and a full breadth of time to showcase Parker because we really are proud of him and want to invite his family to do that. So if we could please give Parker a hand, please. Next, congratulations to Dr. Towns Osborne Miller and the MCC Music Department for their efforts in relationship to our holiday concerts. There you see the dates of those concerts. I had the fortunate privilege of attending 2 of those concerts. They were phenomenal. Towns and the music faculty and staff do an amazing job with our students and the community. We look forward to them continuing to do great things in the upcoming year as well. And I also believe Towns was awarded an award from the chair as well at one of the ceremonies. So congratulations to Towns. Let's please give her a hand. And lastly, the college has received quite a bit of positive news this week. We'll talk about some more news shortly. But perhaps some of you saw in the news that the college was awarded a $2 million grant for moving associate degree nurses into a bachelor's degree program, partnering with Eastern Michigan. Our own Dr. Anar Guru was interviewed, and we'll play that clip here shortly. But I wanted to congratulate Dr. Guru and the entire team for their efforts in securing this important $2 million grant to help offset the shortage in nurses. So if we can have the video, please.
It is now 6:45. Mott Community College in Flint has received a $2 million grant funding a request to boost Michigan's pool of registered nurses.
MCC and Eastern Michigan University will help students with an associate degree in nursing earn a bachelor's degree. Right now it's estimated there are more than 8,000 vacant nursing positions in Michigan. MCC's Dean of Health and Human Services says the money from the state will help with that shortage.
A large portion of that is going to be given directly to students who've completed their ADN or in the process of completing their ADN, and they want to go from having their RN as an ADN to a BSN, getting their bachelor's level education. And so they will be scholarshiped to a large degree in order to continue their education.
In addition to the scholarships for students, Mott Community College will use the funding to provide support services. The hope is to enroll the first students in March.
Thank you, and that concludes celebrating employee and student success. Are there any questions, Mr. Chair?
Are there any questions, trustees? Seeing none, let's move on to item number 2, enrollment update.
Thank you. I'd like to turn the board's attention to our winter enrollment update for our student head count. As of yesterday, we are at 5,635 students. That is a 6.9, approximately 7% increase from last year at this time. From a contact hour standpoint, we are at 57,910.1 contact hours, a 3.3% increase from a year ago. We continue to perform very well from an enrollment standpoint. We have had a very strong year, and my thanks and appreciation goes to the many individuals who've contributed to our efforts in enrollment. Updates, just for the board to know, we continue to focus on current students and students that are in the pipeline from fall who wanted to come for winter and are unable to come. We've had mass outreach efforts, everything from calling campaigns, our internal and external marketing, a program called Financial Fresh Start, which allows students who have balances to come back into the college and essentially have those balances waived and ultimately forgiven if they are successful in completing their degree or certificate. So the college is really reaching out to those, any and everyone who wants to attend. We also have, and we are in the midst of right now, our mini-mester courses. This is something, as you recall, we launched last year. These are 3 to 4 week courses where we are allowing students who want to get a head start on winter to take courses over the winter break. And we also are repackaging our weekend courses to allow students to complete their general eds and get into some of our competitive programs. And the weekends we recognize may be more convenient as an offering. So we've done that as well. That's based on student request. That concludes the enrollment report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. New hires?
You gonna ask any questions on enrollment?
Pardon?
Any questions? We can ask.
Are there any questions?
New hires?
New hires, please.
Okay. For new hires, I'd like to call on Associate Vice President of Human Resources, Sherry Nowak, who will be giving the presentation on introducing our new hires.
Good evening, Board Chair, Vice President Wilson, and trustees. If you want to go to the next slide. So I'm happy to introduce our 4 new hires, and this is thanks to the talent acquisition team here at Mott, Rebecca Martz, April Hubert, and Shinyari Bird. The first person to introduce is a public safety officer, Deanna Westenbarger. So Deanna joined us with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Lake Superior State and graduated from their police academy. She started December 11th. The next person is Jennifer Rivet. She is a support specialist in physical science. She joined November 13th. Jennifer has a bachelor's degree in chemistry and math from Central Michigan University. She worked at Kettering University for 10 years, more than 10 years, most recently as the lab manager for chemistry and biochemistry programs, where she purchased and installed new instruments while preparing labs for use. The next person is Alex Toth, groundskeeper, started December 11th. He is a Grand Blanc high school graduate. He has certificates in pesticide and herbicide applications and forklift, boom, and scissor lift operations. He's a master gardener and arborist with 3 years as a groundskeeper at a Grand Blanc golf course. And our last person is Darian Bush. She is the administrative assistant in 4 for institutional advancement, joined us December 11th. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration from Barber Scotia College in Concord, North Carolina, and she relocated back to Michigan. She was a senior administrative assistant at McHarry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. That concludes the new hires.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Happy holidays.
Next, we have our winter sports update. Just a few recognitions. Coach Schmidt, you know Coach Schmidt, our legendary basketball coach, has reached another milestone, 800 wins. Let's give him a round of applause for that, please. Coach Schmidt, I saw him couple days ago and told him how proud we were of him, and he certainly extends his graciousness in that regard. I mentioned Parker. We can go to the next slide. I mentioned Parker and the men's cross-country team. I wanted to recognize the women's cross-country team. The team ran a national meet in Huntsville, Alabama in November. They finished in 13th place, which is the best finish that they've ever had. Claire Hunt led the team with a time of 19:53 in the 5K, finished in 33rd place. And so we're coming off of 14th last year, so our women's cross-country team is very, very strong. Lastly, again, back to our cross-country, we talked about Parker. We also wanted to acknowledge Aiden Brzezinski, who also ran at the national meet. Aiden finished in 57th place and ran a time of 27:01, and so we want to celebrate Aiden as well. Any questions on our winter sports?
Are there any questions about the winter sports? Seeing none, let's move along to the Corral Center renovation update.
Okay, for our construction updates, I'm going to call Rod Whitney and Larry Gothrick up to assist in these two reports. If there are any additional questions, and this is where we will cover the requested report on the MMB elevator. I'll start with the nail technician lab and the coffee beanery projects. These were projects that the board approved us to launch a few months ago. In terms of the nail tech project, both venting system and electrical work has begun. We have added pedicure chairs to the design blueprint, which changes the overall blueprint and layout of that lab. That was something that we could have done later, but I made the decision to do that now because it allows our students to have the full cosmetology experience in their program. It adds an additional 8 to 12 weeks to the construction timeline. However, it does not delay our ability to run a summer cohort in 2024. As the lab is being finished, we will start potentially a couple of weeks remotely online and then bring the students into the lab to finish out most of their training. Most of the new furniture for that project has been purchased and delivered. The biggest impediment to that project is air handling equipment, which is impacted by supply chain demand issues. The next project that you approved was the coffee beanery project. This project is timely, moving along, has not had any changes and issues. The initial inspection was completed. We're currently at the drywall, countertop, and paint stage of the project. I just learned that. My smile, I guess, gave me away. That's the stage. We've contacted the corporate office of the coffee beanery to determine the color and the scheme to really brighten and freshen the new area. We also created a cost savings in this project by not relocating some cabinetry, which allowed us to leave the existing electrical work in its place. And a water heater. The slide actually says that the water heater had been delivered and not installed yet. I believe we are working to get that water heater installed as we speak. I'll take questions on this particular project before we move on.
Are there any questions on the nail tech lab and the coffee beanery? Seeing none, Mr. Vice President,
Thank you.
let us move on to the parole.
I mentioned earlier with the securing of the $2 million grant for the ADN to BSN program that was great news that came out. Even better news that came out this week, actually Monday I was there on behalf of the college. Governor Whitner signed the bill that allowed for capital funding to be approved for us and 9 other community colleges and other projects across the state to the tune of $12.5 million. Combined with the $12.5 million from capital outlay, the $12.5 million from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, and $7.5 million from voter-approved bonds, this represents our total cost of $32.5 million to cover paying for the renovation of the Prawl Center. In addition to those funds that were secured, a federal allocation was given to the college thanks to Senator Peters of $650,000 for cybersecurity equipment specifically. The project timeline for Prawl is 24 to 36 months. Immediate steps include relocation of the employees from Prawl, who once they saw that Governor Whitner signed, they have been calling me constantly this week. So we're going to start working on that. Renovation, initial renovation tasks such as abatement, ductwork, et cetera. That's my update on Prawl, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions about the Prawl Center at this time? The date that we're starting is when?
The date that we're starting on the Prawl project is the question.
We meet January 3rd to start the full scope and to line out the construction project. So we're trying to act as quickly as possible on that.
The next question that I have is, the registrar's office is going to have to go somewhere. Where are we putting it, and when will that be prepared so that we're vacated from the Prawl Center and at the new facility?
Our intention is to move everyone down into the basement of the Family Life Center, and that will be completed prior to the move from Prawl. So they
For
will
the fall
transition
semester?
yes, and it will be a strategic plan to make that move so it doesn't interrupt students.
Thank you.
If I could add a caveat, there are about 5 offices that are moving down to the basement of the Family Life Center. We're also going to have to look at the other offices in Prawl and where to strategically put them. But the enrollment hub offices, the registrar, admissions, financial aid, those functions will be in one place.
Very good.
Okay, and upon the addition to the agenda, I'd like to get an update on the elevator and MMB.
Okay. So I was just notified of this about 2 hours ago. So
Could you move the microphone closer?
Can you hear me? So an update on the elevator in MMB. The location is correct, the southeast corner of MMB. The elevator did go down at the end of the winter semester. We worked through the summer with Kone, who is the installer, to try to come up with spare parts for the elevator. We even went to the extent of elevator graveyards, which I've never heard of before, to try to salvage parts. We were unable to do so. We then moved forward on getting pricing for replacement of that elevator because they no longer have any parts for it. And I want to put a caveat to that as well, because we also have an additional elevator in public safety, which has the same software and is made by the same company. Currently, it is operating, but it is something to consider as well. We have that price secured right now, and we are waiting for a move on that as we address other issues on campus as well. I also want to bring to the attention to the board, there is another elevator in that building. It is an inconvenience to use that elevator, but we still can get people to the second floor. I am having that elevator serviced tomorrow and Saturday to make sure that we have no hiccups. We need that elevator to continue service in that building.
I'll take over the part about the funding of this. So I think I've spoken to, and I presented before, I think you were all seated, but about capital items on campus and our bond funding. We haven't done bond funding in 3 years. We have no bond funds available to go forward, and we have millions of dollars of needs. This is just one of them. So in order to access those bonds, we're going to have to bring forward the resolution. We'll have to start with our bond consultants and then issue the bonds that the voters have approved, but the board just has to do an authorization for us to go and issue those. And there is a myriad of projects that we need to do: roofs, the parking ramp G, various other deck improvements throughout the years, or for the next few years, just to stabilize our aging infrastructure. So this is a part of, and I don't want anybody to think that we're ignoring this. We're not. But it took some time to get to where we're at here. It's going to take some time also to put everything together, package it, issue the bonds, and then start the construction projects for the next 3 years. So that's where we're at in the phases of this. So you'll probably hear other things that come on campus. Like I said, the ramp G, that's been all fenced off. We've had to close it off. That has to come down as well. So I just want to, again, just reiterate that there's many different things that need to be addressed on this campus. We can't do it out of the general fund. We have the bond dollars available, and it's just a matter of getting all those projects together, and then also the security consultants that we've had working with us on all the locks and such. So we have to package all this together so I can bring it forward to the president, and so that we can discuss this and see what the best approach is to make sure that we have it planned out. You know, and you'll remember, Chair Everman, that you've been on this board for several years prior to Mr. Freeman as well, and Mr. Reyes, is that we always have a lagging unfunded maintenance or repairs that go out 8 years. And each year, or not each year, but every few years, we get a reassessment of those going forward. So I just want you to know that this is something that we have to get that part. The funding has to be done and get that secured so that we can move forward with all these projects that we'll be bringing forward.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to echo that the infrastructure of our campus is a priority for the president and the executive team. We understand that the students' experience is dependent upon us having a quality infrastructure. And so we are making every effort possible to maintain what we have to the best that we can, but we certainly, with Larry's comment around access to bonds, master plan, other things that we are looking at, certainly the board we will be bringing forward those projects as we essentially prioritize those, and we are always looking at those things. Thank you.
Any questions from our board members regarding the elevators at this time? Yes.
So, Jeff, turn that off. Turn yours off. So one of them is down completely, the other one needs serviced.
The other one does not need service. We're doing preventative maintenance on it so that it doesn't need service.
Are we in compliance with the Michigan Disability Act right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Cost estimates at this point?
The current cost estimate right now, just for the elevator itself, is around $250,000. The supporting work that will need to be done with that is roughly another $150,000. Lead time is a year out.
Okay, so it'll take about a year to get this handled. Okay. The program that's over there is dental. So how is this working for them?
It's a horrible inconvenience.
Is there any way we can expedite it so that that program doesn't get hurt by this?
I'm not sure what you mean by expedite.
Get it done before a year?
Not that I'm aware of. We're dealing directly with the manufacturer on this, They do not have spare elevators sitting around. It's an actual custom build to the project.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one of the things that we are going to take a look at in terms of feasibility, specifically to the dental program, is assessing what services and what we can provide. The main service that is affected by this inconvenience is our elderly that are attempting to get to the dental clinic and needing the elevator. Again, the strategic decisions and evaluation of what we can do to help and serve all of our students, our community members, and things of that nature are active conversations of the President and the Executive Cabinet.
Are there any further questions by the board members in this issue? Yes.
Have they give you a detailed list of what's wrong with the elevator as far as parts? Have we looked at going outside? There's a multitude of machine shops that I know for a fact that they do work for Otis elevators, and actually my shop has done replacement parts for parts that were not available anymore. And a lot of times it would be just as cheap. Well, it would be cheaper probably. Do we need to?
Go ahead and answer the question. I think there was a health concern.
This is mainly a circuitry and software issue versus like a bearing or a roller.
Okay, but, all right.
You mentioned the elevator in the public safety is the same make and model. So I understood we could save parts, but is that in good repair? Do we need to begin looking at that one also?
Yes, we need to consider replacing that one as well. It is functioning and in good repair currently, but we are no longer able to get the circuitry and software. The exact same issue could occur in that building.
Okay. And we'll know more from you guys in the January meeting on this particular issue?
I can bring the manager in who is in charge of this and give a full report if you would like.
Well, Larry laid out the process with it going to the president.
Correct.
And I believe at this time that would be going to our vice president, Jason. And because we want to get this done so our elderly patients are taken care of, is this a proper procedure that we handle at this point? I'm asking, Jason, you can even...
If I could, yes. I just want to be clear about the need for us to do a strategic assessment of the entire campus to determine all of those priorities and our best course of action to create temporary solutions, if that's possible for some of these issues, and then those that are more long-term, having our strategies around that. So if I may, I don't want to commit to bringing something forward in January without us having those strategic conversations to know what kind of comes when. So those conversations need to be refined first, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. Gentlemen, thank you. Happy holidays.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the President's report.
Thank you, Vice President Jason Wilson. Comments from the board members. Are there any comments? Yes, Wendy.
I just want to say that I attended the LERTA graduation earlier today, and it was wonderful. Our very own Chief Jamie did an amazing speech, so congrats to all of our new officers, and also everyone have a safe and happy holiday.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Mr. Freeman.
I'd just like to congratulate the college for the increase in enrollment and contact hours, where the national trend is where colleges are struggling to do this. I think it's really monumental that the college was able to do that, and we're seeing numbers go in the right direction, which is really great. So just, I'd like everyone to, say prayers and good thoughts for Dr. Beverly as she recovers. And hopefully it's quick and painless. So just have her in your thoughts during this holiday season. And I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays, and hopefully keep yourself safe, hopefully until the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Is there any other comments from the board? I have one. Towns Miller was pointed out. She had a fundraiser for the music students, along with her colleagues at the Capitol Theater, and they raised over $47,000 for their scholarship fund. That was just amazing what they've done. So thank you, Towns, and the entire staff of the music department. It's nice to see the numbers going up for the school. The public safety and their new employees, hopefully we won't have so many people getting overtime this next year. With that, if there's nothing else, I do not believe we have an executive session this evening. Seeing none. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, see you next year. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.